Hello, all of my beautiful dudes and dudettes. We need to talk about the Gishki Deck. But first, if you're new here, please look down below and like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I do videos on dual terminal archetypes, and I build some pretty goofy decks that I like to take to tournaments, but sometimes I take it seriously. But anyways, let's talk about Gishki. First released in Dual Terminal Series 5 in the TCG in May of 2011, Gishki was one of the archetypes that would kick off Part 2 of the Dual Terminal saga. If you'd like to know more about this saga, please check out the shorts that I've been doing on Fridays, or take a look at Golden Nova's YouTube channel. I'll put links here and in the description down below. It was an archetype of water monsters that focused around ritual summoning, with their win condition either being by OTKing the opponent by their overwhelming amount of level 10 and 8 rituals, or winning via an FTK strategy involving Gishki Gustkraken that would shuffle cards from your opponent's hand back into their deck, which was made incredibly viable with the release of the Heretic Dragons and Constellar Ptolemy M7. With the premature limiting of Constellar Ptolemy M7, Gishki Gustkraken, and Gishki Mind August that would help recur materials back into your deck for you, the Gishki Hand Loop FTK never really got its time to shine in the TCG. The deck did have a brief moment of time in 2014 where it was really known as the most annoying deck of all time, since its game plan was to play a 40-minute turn that would result in a win. And that's awful. That's about it. Until the release of Photon Hypernova, Gishki got 4 new cards of support. Gishki Grimness, a level 2 aqua that on summon can special summon a Gishki from deck. It can be used as the entire requirement for a ritual summon of a Gishki monster at the cost of only being able to attack with ritual monsters for the duration of the turn. Gishki Neremanas, a level 10 ritual that negates and shuffles an opponent's monster into their deck that upon ritual summon can monster reborn any water in your grave, that also cannot be destroyed by battle with anything summoned from the extra deck. A Searcher in Focused Aquamere that can add any Gishki monster from deck to hand, and then if it is in the grave during the end phase and you have a water ritual on board, you can banish it to set any Aquamere spell or trap from your deck. And then a new ritual card, Gishki Necromere, which can be used to tribute monsters for a ritual summon on your side of the field or hand, or just tribute a monster on your opponent's side of the field. The level does not matter for that, just tribute any monster at the cost of you will take damage equal to the attack of the monster that you are ritual summoning. It also lets you put a card from your grave onto the top of your deck, which does have interesting synergy with one of their older level 10 rituals, Gishki Zilgigas. With Gishki Grimness and Gishki Abyss being level 2s, with Gishki Abyss being a non-once per turn, non-soft once per turn Searcher for the entire deck, Spright immediately came to mind to use as an engine to make this deck work. People were expecting to see success with it, even with the looming threat of Kashtira. That is, until the February 2023 ban list, where Spright Elf would suffer the consequences. Spright Elf was a key piece of the Gishki combo, being able to revive Abyss over and over and over again to search all of the pieces you need to build up a board and have constant recursion. So what do we do now with the deck? Well, we can still theoretically run a Spright engine. We can run 1 to 3 Spright Blue, 1 to 3 Spright Jet, 1 Spright Carrot, 1 to 3 Spright Starters, Spright Double Cross, and Spright Smashers. You don't really need to run Spright Red, since Gishki Neremanas fulfills the same requirement as Spright Red, technically being better since it negates and shuffles instead of negate or negate and destroy, depending on what monster you tribute for Spright Red. And we don't really need Pixies either, since Grimness locks us into attacking with only ritual monsters, and you're not really really leaving that many level link or rank 2s on board. Of course, we can still run in the extra deck Gigantic Spright and Spright Sprint, since Gigantic can summon Grimness or Abyss to trigger their summon and search effects, respectively. But we won't be able to summon our bigger rituals if we use Gigantic, so we need to figure out a board that we can set up that will allow us to go for the crackback on our following turn to close the game. What other engines can we run? There's still the Nimble cards in Angler and Beaver. They're water level 2s that special summon themselves and are very easy to get access to thanks to Spright Sprint. Angler also has the added benefit of being a fish, which does really come in handy for some other cards that we can potentially put into the deck. As mentioned before, the Nimble cards are level 2 water, which helps us summon Gigantic, Sprint, and also go into other Link 2s at our disposal, Marincess Coral Anemone, and Abyss Keeper. Abyss Keeper lets you special summon a fish from hand to a link zone that it points to, and Coral Anemone lets you special summon a water from your grave to a zone that it points to. This, however, does lock you into water monsters, so you need to keep that in mind when deck building. It's better to use this if you want to focus more on getting the Gishki ritual monsters on board, or go into plays involving Zelantis. Abyss Keeper also has a really neat effect where you can banish a fish that it points to and a card on your opponent's side of the field simultaneously. Unfortunately, though, with Abyss Keeper, you cannot use it as link material the turn that it is link summoned. So a good way to work around that is somehow figure out how to bring IP Masquerena on board to go into Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess or Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax during your opponent's turn with Abyss Keeper. They both require 2 water monsters as material, meaning you're not necessarily locked into level 2s for everything that you do. Also, due to how they summon, you don't miss timing with Gishki Abyss, which is a when can effect. Now, we have to start talking about what everybody's been talking about as a pseudo replacement for Spright Elf, that is Bujinki Ahashima. On Link Summon, you can special summon 2 monsters, one from hand and one from grave, of the same level, and immediately Link Summon. There's also the effect that if an Ixies monster it points to activates its effect, you can destroy a set spell or trap on your opponent's side of the field, but that doesn't necessarily matter for what we're planning on doing with Bujinki Ahashima. Bujinki Ahashima is great for the deck if you're running frogs and want to go into Totally Awesome, which really is quite easy in this deck since your entire main deck, aside from the sprites, are all waters, resulting in very easy discard fodder for Swap Frog. It also requires you to play Swap Frog in the deck. But since Bujinki Ahashima negates the effects of the monsters that it summons, it doesn't really fulfill the same niche that Spright Elf was occupying with being able to bring back Abyss to get Abyss's searches off. What we need with the deck is to get Abyss searches, and you can't do that, but you can with Abyss Keeper and Marincess Coral Anemone. If you go with a heavier Ixies count in the extra deck, though, Bujinki Ahashima would be pretty great to run, but let's leave the extra deck aside for a moment and think about other cards that we have at our disposal. Thankfully, over the years, we've received a ton of generic water support. It's almost reminiscent of the Hoenn region. With that, we've got some cards that we need to keep in mind for the deck. Beautiful Princess is a level 1 fish that can be special summoned off of something like 1/1 that you banish on summon to special summon a fish from deck. Abyss and Grimness are both fishes. Salvage is a very old card that can add your water monsters from grave to hand, letting you repeatedly use Gishki Shadow and Gishki Vision's discard and search effects. Surface is another one of those really old cards that we can use, which can Monster Reborn something, letting us use Abyss's effect over and over again, along with White Mirror, which is a Monster Reborn specifically for fish. Grimness and Abyss are both fish. The cool thing about White Mirror is that with the Monster Reborn of the fish, you will add a card from deck to hand of the same name, giving you another Grimness or Abyss in hand upon the special summon of Grimness or Abyss from grave. There's also the potential of some synergy between our Gishki cards and the classic water deck, Deep Sea and Atlantean. Atlantean Dragoons can search out Gishki's Vision and Shadow, as can the spell card Deep Sea Aria. Neptibus is as another potential target for 1/1 that can search us the Dragoons, that can search us the Gishki Shadow and Gishki Vision. Deep Sea Diva can also summon Neptibus, opening up potential synchro plays. Speaking of potential synchro plays, there's the water monster that was recently used in the based pile decks of last year, Crusadia Arborea, that can special summon itself as a condition to a zone that a Link monster points to. There is one other dastardly little gal, which is a level 2 that can cause quick play synchros, which can be summoned off of Gigantic Spright, Crystron Seitree. During your opponent's turn, you can Monster Reborn a non-tuner in your grave and immediately synchro summon into a machine-type synchro. You'll usually go into Crystron Quandex, which has the effect to quick play synchro on your opponent's turn. This opens up plays to the possibility of running synchros, but let's roll back to the Gishki cards. Neremanis is a monster negate. Gishki Grimness, Gishki Abyss, Gishki Shadow, and Gishki Vision all search essentially the entire deck. So what is the deck exactly missing? To be good, a deck needs to find what makes it unfair. And what's something unfair that Gishki can do? Well, let's think back to why 2 of its rituals were prematurely limited upon seeing how they devastated the OCG. Gishki can shuffle cards from your opponent's field and hand back into their deck. With how the game currently is going, the Grave, and now with Kashtira, the Banished pile, are essentially second hands, and a lot of cards gain advantage off of being sent to the grave. So being able to hand rip your opponent and instead shuffle cards back into the deck is, in essence, quite unfair, leaving your opponent with nothing to work with at all. So how can we figure out how to use this and build a competent deck? Well, Abyss can search Gust Kraken, and Vision, which can search Gust Kraken. Grimness can summon Abyss, which can search Gust Kraken, or Vision, which can search Gust Kraken. White Mirror can Monster Reborn Abyss to get those searches, and add an Abyss to hand. Deep Sea Area can search Vision or Shadow, which can search Gust Kraken or a Photo Mirror Ritual. Neremanis can Monster Reborn Abyss to get our searches. Salvage can add Vision and Shadow to hand to let us continuously ritual summon Gust Kraken. Abyss Keeper and Corlin Enemy can let us special summon from the hand or grave respectively to get summon effects off. Preparation of Rites can get us Gust Kraken and a ritual spell that's probably in our grave from having been used to keep hand looping. Gishki Aquamirror can keep putting Gust Kraken back in our hand. Focused Aquamirror can search out any missing piece or a way to get to any missing piece and then set Aquamirror Illusion on our end phase so that we can ritual summon Gust Kraken again during our opponent's standby phase to shuffle whatever card they drew right back into the deck. Looking at all of these ways to search anything in the deck, it seems as if there's something available here to us. Of course, we can run anywhere between 2 to 3 Grimness and anywhere between 2 to 3 Abyss, 2 to 3 Shadow, and 2 to 3 Vision. Right? We should be running 2 Neremanis and probably 3 Gust Kraken, since we need as many in rotation as possible to be able to get this hand loop effect going. We should also make sure that we run at least 2 Aquamirror, along with at least 1 Photomirror, and Focused Aquamirror since it searches everything, along with Aquamirror Illusion because it'll let us ritual summon on our opponent's turn. Okay, so we've got the core. What's next? Should we use the Spright engine, or should we lean more into Gust Kraken? If we ran more into Gust Kraken, we'd have to definitely run Deep Sea Aria, Salvage, Surface, White Mirror, Beautiful Princess. The thing is, all those cards already require something in our grave, so there's kind of a hindrance right there. At least with Spright, if we choose to go that route, we're probably running 2 Spright Blue, 2 Spright Jet, 2 Spright Starter, a Carrot, and a Double Cross. That's a bare bones package right there. We can't forget to run, the Nimble package. That's a lot of cards already. If we're focusing so much on level 2s, that means we're probably gonna have to focus on Swap Frog along with Totally Awesome, which means we'd have to definitely run Bujinki Ahashima. If we were going that route, we would just take the Gust Krakens out and throw the Swap Frogs in, which would be a good way to go second. But if we're not doing Spright, we should focus on more consistency cards or ways to get to our consistency cards, like Pot of Prosperity and even the previously mentioned Preparation Rites. There's quite a lot to do with this deck, so what do you think? Comment down below and let's have a discussion on how you think we should go forward with Gishki. And if you like this style of video, please let me know. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, check out the link to my Patreon down in the description below. I give exclusive channel updates on there, and the Interdimensional Gods tier is a tier that can pick what kind of goofy deck I take to my locals on Friday to upload a profile of on Sunday. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you around.